Okay, can you please explain the role of API gateway in microservices?
Yeah, there are various purpose of API gateway. So any request comes up from the client, it goes through the API gateway. So suppose, so based on the service discovery, whatever the IP address would have been assigned, so they all would be running to the different IP addresses, right? So API gateway is the place where load balancing happens, authentication or authorization happens, and this also decides that which microservice the request has to go to based on the request given by the client. And then rate limiting and throttling, all this also happens there.
Mm-hmm.
And logging also happens. So API gateway can log the request and response. Then any kind of caching, if suppose has to happen, that also happens at the API gateway level. So yeah, these are the, various roles which API gateway plays in microservices.
Okay. Okay, so what is this rate limiting?
So basically rate limiting like limits the number of hits has to go to microservices at a time. So like it prevents from overloading of the microservices.
Mm-hmm.
So basically it also protects it from unwanted hits or multiple hits or any kind of attacks someone is trying to do. So it won't allow multiple hits or I mean overloading kind of situation. So yeah, it prevents from that.
Okay, okay. Okay, what is Spring Boot starter?
Yeah, Spring Boot starter is like kind of we can say that it is the libraries, I mean predefined libraries which has been added in Spring Boot. So we don't have to write the boilerplate codes and it will automatically handle. So user has to only focus on the logic. So all these starter libraries will be available ready made, and whatever we want to use we can use in the pom.xml in case of Maven uh, project.
Okay, can you name few of them?
Yeah, like Spring Boot Starter Web, Spring Boot Starter Data JPA, then Actuator, Starter Actuator, then Spring Boot Starter Test, then Security. So yeah, these are the few starter libraries we have which Spring Boot provides out of the box.
Okay. Okay, what is the difference between authentication and authorization?
Authentication means like giving the credentials to the anything, whatever web application or any API is there. So giving the credentials like username and password. So that is what we say authentication. And authorization means suppose we have any web application, then which part who can see. Like suppose we have a web application and it has admin section, and then it has like normal like e-commerce tabs like clothes or TV. So like admin can only see the admin section, right? So we prepare the role, and that role is assigned to the specific user. Whoever user will have that role which has the admin permission, they can only see the admin tab. So yeah, so this is what is the authorization. So basically authorization is the way of making the various users to identify which user can see which section, or which or the user or the which user has the access of which part of the application. So yeah, so that is what is the authorization.
Okay, so how do we configure server in Spring Boot?
How we configure server? Yeah, so uh, actually we don't have to configure it explicitly. So it is inbuilt, and we have to just update the like port number. So all that we can update in the application.properties or YAML file. So Tomcat is the default server in Spring Boot, and if you want to change also, we can change it. Like we can say exclude of that, and then further the other server whatever we want, that uh, a dependency we can give in the pom.xml or build.gradle, whatever we are using, and accordingly that server will be added. So yeah, so mostly we configure it in properties or YAML file only. So whatever we want.
So in monolithic, we used to build the war file and we used to deploy, right? So similar way can we do it in the Spring Boot?
Yeah, I think we can do it. Yes.
Okay, so can you tell me the steps how we do it?
Uh, I think what we can do is that in the Maven we have to update the Maven file, and I think we mention in that packaging as var. Yeah, so it will be converted to the var file, and then we can do like we do as for monolithic application.
Okay, so packaging as war is enough or we have to do anything else?
No, that is not enough. I think we also do for in the Spring Boot application. We say extends Spring Boot servlet initializer, and then we can do it. I think. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So why we use at the rate of Autowired annotation?
Yeah. Autowired we use for the automatic wiring. So suppose one class wants to use the bean of some different class, so we prepare the bean of another class, and that we can inject to the like the class where we want to use it. For example, if any service class is there, and that service class, suppose we want to inject repository, so we can auto wire that repository there, and then from that repository we can call its corresponding methods, and we can further do whatever we want, like with the database fetch or whatever we want. So yeah, so this is the purpose of AutoWAD annotation.
Okay, how communication happens between microservices and what are the
Yeah,
various ways?
yeah. So the communication happens between the microservices. Basically, we can divide that into two parts. One is the uh, synchronous way, and another one is the asynchronous way. So synchronous call basically is the call in which the client makes a call to another microservice, and the client which is calling that waits for the response till the another microservice is responding, and because of this it is in the blocked state, and until and unless the response doesn't come, so client has to wait and it does not proceeds further. So this can happen using HTTP or REST call, or there can be RPC also, remote procedure call. And in case of asynchronous, so we have like a kind of RabbitMQ or Kafka. So in case of asynchronous communication, so in this case the message is sent and the client forgets after sending it. Basically this follows the producer or consumer way. So like producer is producing the messages, and consumer is whenever getting time, so that is consuming it as per its convenience, and producer does not have to wait for the consumer to consume the data, and it moves after producing the data. So because of this, it makes the system loosely coupled. Yeah, so this is the various ways we can communicate uh, between microservices.
Okay, what is the order of precedence in a Spring Boot configuration? We can configure either from environment variables, command lines, right? So, like that, what is the order of precedence? Which one will be picked first?
Yeah, I think command line will be picked first. Then I think will be environment variable, and then it can be external files or something. Yeah, so I think that will be the order.
Okay. Okay, what is circular dependency? Have you ever faced it?
Circular dependency. Yeah, so circular dependency basically means like suppose we have a application A and we have another application B. So it's like application A depends on application B, and at the same time application B also depends on application A. So like it's kind of loop in which two or more components, it can be either classes, beans or modules, they depend on each other. It can be directly or indirectly, so and it creates the loop ultimately, and it falls into loop, and um, so this leads to the situation where like none of the component can be created because one is waiting for the another one to be created, right? So that is what is the circular dependencies. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, what is at the rate of Spring Boot application? Can you explain?
Yeah, so at that of a Spring Boot application basically is the combination of three other annotations. So one is at the rate of a Spring Boot configuration, another one is at the rate of component scan, and the next one is at the rate of enable auto configuration. So this is the combination of these three. So at the rate of configuration is a like class level annotation, and it means that class can be used by IOC container as a source of bean definition. And then coming to at the rate of enable auto configuration, so this auto configures the bean that are present in class path. So this basically simplifies the developers work by guessing the required beans from the class path, and it configures it from the application, right? Then coming to at the rate of component scan, so basically it scans the packages and all of its sub packages also. So it looks for all the classes like under that package, and uh, then those classes will be automatically registered as a beans like in the Spring container. So yeah, so this is what is this annotation is.
Okay, what is actuator? Do you know what is actuator?
Yeah, Actuator is like kind of library which has been provided to reduce the or remove the boilerplate codes, and ultimately um, for the monitoring and managing the Spring Boot application. So we can use it directly. So it has given some endpoints like info, health, beans, and all that, and we can use these endpoints to further monitor our Spring Boot application. So yeah,
Okay, so what are the default ones in this?
do you mean default endpoint?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so info and actuator. So these two are the default ones.
Okay, what is Spring profiles?
Yeah, Spring profiles allows us to define different configurations for different environments. So like whenever we develop the application, so we can have various environments. Like we can have dev, we can have QA, we can have production, right? So basically it enables us to selectively load the bins or configuration properties based on the active profile. So these profiles we can activate in the properties file of the Spring Boot. So yeah, so it picks from there, and whatever the corresponding configuration will be there, so only those profiles will be loaded. So yeah.
Okay, so what are the Java 8 features you are aware of?
Yeah, so lambda expression is there, then stream API is there, and functional interface is there. Under that we have default and static methods, and then optional class is there, method referencing is there, and date time API is there. So yeah, so these are the a few features which Java 8 has.
Okay, so in functional interface, can you extend the functional interface?
Yes, it can be done, but I think it has to follow some conditions. So blindly it cannot extend other interfaces. So for example, if the like combining the both interfaces, if it has only one abstract method, then it can extend another interface. So what I mean is, like, suppose um, the function interface A does not have any abstract method, but B has one abstract method, then A can extend B because it is not violating the single abstract method rule of functional interface. Also, suppose the like combination does not have any abstract method, but it has the default and static methods only, then also it is possible. Like, so as long as it is not violating the functional interface rule, uh, then we can extend it, otherwise we cannot.
Okay, what is Stream API? Have you worked on it?
Yeah, the stream API basically allows us the functional way of like iterating or doing the things and working on elements. So for example, the sequence of data and all, we can apply streams. So it basically supports various operations, like we can use filter, map, reduce, collect, and it can be of two types. It can be a normal stream and it can be the parallel stream as well. So yeah, so whenever we have multiple cores CPU, so we can go for the parallel stream. And also we don't want, I mean, we don't have the necessity to show the to pass the data in the sequence only, then we can go for parallel stream as well. So yeah, that is what I know about streams.
Okay, so what is the difference between stream and collection?
Stream and collection.
Yes.
Okay, so stream is like we use in Java 8 to stream the elements, like, and we can apply further operations on that. But uh, collection is a data structure. So basically the stream is not a data structure, so it's a sequence of elements that can be processed. So, and it does not store data, but it operates on data provided by collections. And stream can be processed in a functional style, So it also supports parallel processing, and it is immutable. And collections are data structures that store elements and are mutable. Yeah, so basically we apply stream on collections, right? So we have the list, we have set, so those are the collections, but stream we apply on that.
Okay, so what is default and static methods?
Yeah, so default is basically it has a dummy implementation. So whenever we want like like whatever the interfaces sorry, whatever the classes which is using this functional interface which has this default method, so they have the option to either use that default method, or they can use their own implementation. So for a static, the definition in interface cannot be changed by class implementing that, so it cannot be overridden. So this is the basic difference between these two.
Okay, have you heard of diamond problem in functional interface?
Yeah, so diamond problem, yes, I know that. So like if two implemented interfaces contain the same default method, then that's the we say like it is diamond problem.
Okay, so how we can overcome that?
Yeah, so in that case we can add super. So whenever we have to access that, so we can say like whatever the interface name is there, dot super dot that method name. So like that we can override from this interface.
Okay, what is the difference between filter and map?
Yeah, the filter method is used to select elements from the stream that matches a given condition. So suppose we have 10 elements in the collection. So out of 10, it will be like either 10 results or less than those results. But in case of map, we basically don't filter it. We uh, transform each element to some different form. So it's used for applying functions to each element of the string. So for example, suppose we have the collections items like 1 to 10 number is there, then we can filter like only the odd numbers or even numbers, right? But suppose we have the requirement like um, uh, with every number we have to append with some characters or some string, then we can go for map and we can write our logic so that one and the other string can be appended together and we can show the result. So this is what is the map. So basically we can say whatever the collections dot stream dot map, and then we can write our logic, then dot collect and collect us to list or whatever. So that is how we can do it.
Okay, have you worked on exception handling?
Yeah, I have worked on it.
Okay. Okay, suppose any exception happens while a static initialization block. So, how it behaves, how your code behaves, what errors you see.
Yeah, at a static initialization block, uh, so I think when any error happens in the static block, then I think it may result to the no class definition error or exception initialization error. So yeah, so these exception may occur. So this will happen at runtime. If a class fails to initialize due to the exception in a static initialization block, it will result this error. Yeah.
Okay, what is finally block in Java?
Yeah, finally block is basically it is a special kind of, we can say, block in which the code is always executed irrespective of any exception thrown or not. So we have try, catch, and finally, right? So catch can be optional, or so normally we have a try block and then either it can have one or more catch blocks, and then we have finally block. So like finally block, so no matter whatever happens in try or catch, but finally blocks always execute. So only the situation when that we say system.exit, then only it won't go, otherwise it will always execute. Then this finally block mostly we use for like resource cleanup, like any text file reading we have done and we want to close the connection or JDBC connection. So those things we can use for that. Those things we can do in finally. And coming to whether we can throw exception, so I think yes, we can throw an exception from finally block. So yeah, we can throw the exception from finally block.
So have you done it anytime? Or do you think we should do it or we should not do it?
Yeah, I think normally we don't do this because normally whenever we uh, throw the exception in finally block, in that case what happens is like it overrides the whatever exception has come from try or catch block. So it will override that, and whatever the finally block will have, only that exception will be shown. So because of this we might lose the actual exception what would have happened in try block. So normally this is not the good practice to do. So if an exception is thrown in finally block, so it can affect the control flow of the program.
Okay, okay. Okay, you know optional, right? In Java 8?
Yeah, I know that. So optional basically we use to handle null pointer exception. Yeah, so optional dot off basically creates an optional with none null value. So it throws a null pointer exception if the provided value is null. Then coming to optional dot off nullable. So it creates an optional that can hold either a non-null value or null. So it can also like hold null. So it creates an empty optional if the provided value is null. Then coming to optional dot empty, so it creates an empty optional uh, which represents the absence of a value. So this is what is the difference between these three.
Okay, what is the difference between array list and linked list?
Array list we use when our purpose is to only iteration, and insertion or deletion of element is not our primary purpose. If we want to insert or delete elements, in that case we use linked list. So linked list will be faster because underlying data structure is doubly linked list. So we it does not have to propagate to each and every element. Instead it just uh, like breaks the whatever the connection is there between the two elements and between two nodes, and we can simply insert the data into that. The underlying data structure of array list is a dynamic array, so it uses dynamic array to store the elements. So yeah, so this is the difference between these two.